Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our now virtual online MBA information session. And it's a new time for all of us. So we're all kind of broadcasting in from our living rooms and hope this is a good format for you to kind of hear a little bit more about the MBA program. Thank you for joining us. I know it's some challenging times for all of us, but we appreciate you still taking the time. And we're trying to maintain some level of normalcy in the midst of the craziness. I also want to welcome on the line Dr. Jay Oliver, who is our program director for the MBA. Many of you have probably had Jay in class. And Kiana Pietrzyk, I probably pronounced that wrong, but she's one of our MBA students and graduating this May. And we look forward to hearing from her some of her contributions about her experience in the program. Just logistically quickly, if you're on your mobile device, you'll see there's a questions panel. It's likely on the bottom of your phone if you're on a phone. If you have any questions, you can enter them in that box. So if a few of you could just pull that up and type in where you're calling in from or where you're dialing in from, we'd love to see where you are and just make sure you can hear us clearly. But if you have questions throughout the session, feel free to enter them in that box. It's on the right side of your desktop if you're on a computer screen. And we'd be happy to answer those questions as we go throughout, and we'll leave certainly some time at the end there. So hopefully everybody can hear us. And without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Oliver, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about the program.
Thanks, Marcus. Well, hello, everyone. I'm glad you were able to join us tonight or late afternoon. What our goal is today is you're going to get really three different perspectives and some great information on the program. As Marcus said, there'll be time at the end for questions. But just to give you an idea of what we're offering, this is a one-year program with 36 credits. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but you'll take one class in your senior year, which is why you'll see it referred to as a 4+1 as well. We are both undergraduate and graduate were accredited by the AACSB, and that's an accreditation panel. There are only 400 schools internationally, give or take a few, that have that AACSB accreditation, and that's something where I wouldn't expect you to know exactly what that is, but employers do know what that is, and they value that. And so that's, no matter where you decide to go to graduate school, if you're getting an MBA, you want to go to an AACSB accredited school. We do have an internship and international component, internship requirement, international component. I'll talk about that a little bit later. We've had some good experience with that. Things change for this year's class, but we'll talk about why that's important and a critical part of the program. Something that with any MBA program, and we're no different. We have coursework that's built to help you succeed in today's competitive environment, and the program, the courses. Focus on the important things: critical thinking, data analytics, leadership, customization. You can customize things through electives. I'll get into this a little bit later when we go through the curriculum, but there are you have two electives. And so let's say you want to complement your degree with, there's a master's program in leadership at RWU, or so you might want to take two leadership courses, or maybe you take two psychology courses, things that just sort of are a little bit different, but something that you're interested in and would complement your degree. Another thing I'd add to this is, in addition to all the coursework, another thing that this program provides is lessons and help with soft skills, things like things that just help you be professional, and how to conduct your job search, how to reach out and connect with someone and build your network, and all those things that are really critical, public speaking, all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that, all of these in more detail throughout our presentation. So we're going to spend most of our time talking about the MBA at RWU, but in general, an MBA in business is one of the most recognized degrees. I like to say at the graduate level, I always like to say it's gone from a nice to have to a need to have. And definitely, would also like to, or will often say, put your resume under the top of the pile. It's something that differentiates yourself because you do have that master's degree. And really with an MBA, we have listed finance, marketing, management, IT, accounting, entrepreneurship, and all, and there are others as well. But an MBA really sets you up for success regardless of the field you're in. So at Roger Williams, as I mentioned before, that we are accredited, and just keep that in mind that you do want an accredited degree. That's something that, as I mentioned, employers will look for. When we get to the admission requirements, that will come into to play as well, because being an accredited school, we have to do certain things. Nothing to worry about. We just have to do things on a higher level because we're accredited, which is good for you. One of the things that I think sets our program apart from others is you do take a graduate course your senior year. I don't know if any of you have had Dr. Knights, but you'll take. He's amazing, and if you've had him, I certainly don't have to tell you that. And you take a course the spring semester of your senior year called Ethical Leadership of Organizations. And this is a great way. We have students that have already made up their mind they're going to do the program, but some students are on the fence or want to see what grad school is all about. And this is a great way to kind of try it out before you make any final decisions. It also happens to save you money by doing it this way, because we usually can have it count as an undergraduate class. Even if it's just an elective, it falls under your undergraduate tuition. And it's certainly something that even if you decided not to go to our program, it should be a graduate course you can transfer later on, again, because we're an accredited business school. In addition to that, one of the things that we do get often is should I go straight through for my MBA? And we've set this up to make sure you get some real world experience while you're getting your degree, and we do that through an internship requirement. And if you've had an undergraduate internship, it's similar in the sense that it's 135 hours like that undergraduate internship. But at the graduate level, we want you to be doing something a little more challenging, helping out with a project or an initiative, something that a company might have on their good intention list, but hasn't had a chance to get around to it yet. And the idea is you would jump in and save the day, so to speak, but really put time in and really make a difference. And that's something we'll guide you along the way. We also have our global experience. And this goes into both an international business class and an international experience course. And this is something where we travel abroad. You'll see some pictures here in a little bit. We've gone to Panama. We've gone to China. We were supposed to go to China again this year. We unfortunately had to cancel that. And we were then going to go to Chile and Argentina for another great experience. And we were dealt a different hand on that, but we will do our experience virtually for this. And while it's everyone's a little disappointed that we couldn't travel, we're going to make the most of it, like a lot of other universities are through this. And my expectation is we'll be up and running and go on the trip next year. Lastly, on the bullet, it's probably what I should have led with, is that if you're an undergraduate student at Roger Williams, I hope you know this, is I always feel like we have faculty that'll drop everything to help a student. And in the MBA program, we put our best faculty in to teach. And that's, I think that's important. At the graduate level, the relationship is a little different. And most of the professors I know teaching in the MBA is their favorite class. So maybe, Kiana, I'll let you chime in and talk about maybe interacting with faculty on the graduate level, or
yeah,
faculty.
Absolutely. I definitely second that. We definitely have the best staff, the best professors on the MBA level. For instance, I was having a difficult time in my economics class last semester, and I met with Professor Greg on a weekly basis outside of his office hours. So he specifically made time for me to make sure that I was getting the extra help that I needed. And I think that just speaks measures to how much the professors really care about how well the students are doing. And he isn't the only professor that has helped me like that. I know other students have seen other professors in the MBA program who have gone above and beyond as well for them.
And you can't see him on that picture there, but Dr. Gregg and some other professors were on the boat with that has in that picture there, and we did that this past September. It was our sailing into our MBA event in Newport, a sunset cruise, and it reminds me what a family we all are for a year in the MBA program. And so that's one of the benefits of going in a 1 year straight through program. You go through most of your classes with your same people. You're doing teamwork, and it's that all shapes up to be just an amazing experience.
One thing I'll add to that, my own MBA I got after I graduated in 2006 from my undergrad, and I waited a few years and then went back and did my MBA part-time in the evening. And, we have a lot of students that ask pretty often about, well, why should I go right into my MBA? Don't MBAs require experience? And you'll hear a lot of MBA programs that may require you to go work for 3 or 5 years. But these 1 year opportunities, one of the nice benefits of going right after school, and I didn't have this option, at least in a 1 year format when I graduated. But once you get out into the working world and you taste the salary, and you might have commitments at home where you have children or your spouse, or maybe family commitments, it's a lot harder to juggle all of that with your schooling. So to be able to come right out, and while you're still in school mode, you don't have a lot of other commitments, to plow right through with your MBA, especially in a job market now where an MBA, as Jay mentioned, is more required than it ever used to be. This gives you a leg up by doing that right off the bat. And then you can go and work and ultimately never have to go to school again if you don't want to. And having that behind you certainly gives you a lot of flexibility with your next steps with work, and in many cases relocating if you need to. And your job growth exponentially grows by having that at that time and not having to worry about trying to fit it in later. And trust me, when I was doing it part-time in the evenings after working, 50 or 60 hour a week job, it's not an easy thing to juggle, and it's not the most pleasant thing, especially if you want to have a social life or a relationship and other things. So it's a really good opportunity to do it right after you graduate from your undergraduate studies.
Yeah, and I would like to go off of that real quick. I personally feel like I joined this program because I was already in an academic mindset, and I personally didn't see myself being able to go back to school and doing a whole year or 2 years in some cases to get my MBA later in life. And I just know a handful of people who can't move up in their roles because they don't have that degree, their MBA. So I figured this was the best opportunity for me personally to just get my MBA and have another degree under my belt in just a single year. So that's one of the perks of the program, I think.
And I'll, before we talk about the Providence campus, I'll also say, and Kiana, I think you'll agree, I always tell people you'll walk across the stage in May and you join the MBA program and you blink and you've done a lot of work, you drink a lot more coffee, you're much more confident, but then you're walking right back across that stage again. It goes by quick.
Oh, that is an understatement. It is flying by, but on all the best ways.
No, absolutely. We do.
Jay?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We had one question that came in right there, so I figured we might as well address it because it's related. Do you have to start the 4+1 right after your undergrad degree, or can you wait a couple of years and then do the +1 year at a later time?
That's a good question, and the answer is yes. And we usually, the way our program is, we usually don't like to wait too long, but I would say 2, 3, 4 years is fine. And a lot of people go out, they do their first job and kind of go so far, and they're ready for that next step and decide to go back and get their MBA before that next step. But we've had we've had a few students that have come back, after graduating a few years after they graduated to come back. So yes, we're happy to accommodate that. And that was good. That was a good question, and I'm glad. Please keep the questions coming in, and we're happy to answer them. I'm not sure many people on the line, if you're in Bristol, have been to the Providence campus. I like to describe it as more of a corporate office than a campus. We're on the 4th floor along with the law school, and we have our own space. We share a student lounge and work area with the law students as well. And it's a floor of professionalism. And the other thing I've heard students say in the past, that this is kind of a step closer to the real world. That in Bristol you're in a bubble, and then Providence you're around top companies, and it feels a lot more professional, and we like that, and hope it kind of eases that transition as you look through that first job after graduation. So looking at the curriculum, and another question that I get a lot is, for a variety of reasons, sometimes students are interested in the program, or are interested in the program, but for scheduling can't take that spring class their senior year, or it's this time in the semester and they decide that they really would like to pursue the MBA in the fall or even over the summer. And so we do offer that ethical leadership of organizations both in the fall by Dr. Knights, and which is a great class, and then as a smaller seminar for students that just weren't able to take it either from scheduling or they didn't know they were going to pursue the MBA. And so we have Dr. Kate Hall teach that in the fall in a smaller seminar setting of like 6 to 8 students. So that's a class that you'll take one way or another. I would say the majority of students do take that the spring semester of their senior year, which is good. You get an idea of what grad school is all about. Dr. Knights, as I mentioned before, just does such an amazing job. And then you would graduate in May, and I'm sure. I'll talk about this a few times. I've already talked about it, but with the internship requirement, you could actually take it during the summer right after you graduate undergrad. We do have students that like to do that and get it out of the way if they find the right opportunity. And then in August, we do a workshop called Rogers Review, and we have that. It took us a while to kind of dial in what we wanted to do, and the purpose of this was we wanted students to hit the ground running when the fall semester started. So this is a full week, it's 4 days, but it's the week before classes start in August. And you'll review data analytics, Excel, you'll do, I usually do some, just a quick review on marketing, we'll do econ, some finance, and we also did both written and verbal communication, which is something that you're going to do in every class. And the idea is it's been a long, fun summer, and we want you to hit the ground running in the fall. And you'll take four or five classes in the fall, depending on if you took the spring class or if you want to take an elective. You'll take accounting, and we have Professor Zagrandi teaching that for us, and he has his own accounting firm, and it's just great. The students really enjoy his course. And marketing management, that's a course that I teach, and you may or may not have had me before, but I try to use real-world experiences, cases that are kind of relevant, and what really worked this year that I'll continue to do is we did a couple on-the-spot cases where you just came in and as if you were with a company, and now I hand out this case, and now you have a situation that you have to fix, and you work in small teams for an hour and then present the solution. The students like that, and we finished up with a sales pitch that that is really good. I always tell students, no matter what you're in, no matter what you do, you're always in sales. And so that was a nice way, and we got some good feedback on that. So that's something where I'm trying to do things that are relevant to what you're going to see when you're in 1 year when you're working. For economics, as Kiana said, you'll have Dr. Greg, who is great. Decision analysis, I believe Professor Fajardi has changed that to data analytics. Same content, just a little more timely title for that course. And if you've had him before, you know how great he is and how much he will help students and get you through Excel. I know Excel is one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so he's great on helping students and really getting them to the level that you're going to need when you graduate. In the spring semester, you'll have finance with Dr. Wu and global business with Dr. Kate Hall. Strategic management. Kiana, who do you have for that now?
We have Dr. Scott Burke.
And Dr. Burke also teaches strategic management or business policy at the undergraduate level. And there's a simulation, and he does a really good job at doing that. And it's been one of those semesters where I don't judge me for forgetting his name, but I've heard great things about him. And you'll have two electives you'll need to take throughout the program. Some people will split them up between the fall and spring, or if you depending on what you're doing, you can take both those classes in the spring semester. And as I said, you're really open to any graduate class from any program on campus. And I try to steer students to some of our master's in leadership courses and psychology and some things like that will really help them and complement their MBA. The international experience, which we'll talk about that, but just shortly, is something that hopefully we'll be back on schedule for next year, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. And then the internship, as I mentioned, it's something you can really do at 4 different times or 5 if we wanted to count the winter session. But the summer before the program starts, the summer after the program starts, or during the program. And I would say the breakdown's about a third. And some students feel it's a requirement and they try to check that box as quickly as possible. I try to push students to go after the right opportunity, no matter when it is. I do realize it's a requirement, so there's some pressure. I do try to help students with cover letters, resumes, connecting with different companies and things like that. And it's not uncommon for our students to have an internship, to have things really go well, and they work for that company after graduation. So in 2018, we went down to Panama, which was a great trip. Really focused more on supply chain, logistics, a little bit of marketing, and just looking at how business is done outside of the U.S. It was, I think there was 18 inches of snow here when we were down there, which made it just a little bit more fun, and it was just a great experience. Looking at some of those bullets there, DHL, who's on par with FedEx and UPS, was a great company visit. The logistic companies were really great. The nice thing when you do these international trips, the companies really roll out the red carpet and are so happy to have graduate students come visit them. Actually, our trip to the U.S. Embassy was very enlightening, and just seeing from a U.S. government standpoint what are some of the important things they deal with on a daily basis. The Panama Canal was really amazing to see, and I don't know the status on it, but they were talking about building another canal down there for bigger ships. And lastly, just looking at the cultural biodiversity and the cultural aspects, which we enjoyed the whole week we were down there. It was a great experience, and so there are clear business implications. And it was great to go into these companies and see what they're doing. And usually every presentation ends with, please go to our website for positions availability, which is always great to hear. But the other thing is one of the benefits of being in a full-time program is you're doing so much together that this was such a great team building trip, and that I know throughout their professional career, these students will still be in contact, and they'll say, hey, I see your company has a position, maybe it's something I want to apply for, or maybe they're hiring someone from a company that they're working for, or maybe it's just, hey, I need a sounding board for something I'm thinking about. But these students will continue to support each other long after graduation. And last year we went to China, which was a really eye-opening experience as well. One of the greatest things about this is, and I can say hands down, that we walked over that we didn't walk over there at all, but we went over there with some perceptions about how China might be, or how the people might be, or how business was done. And I'm pleased to say, most of us were I think we would say we're wrong, and we're very surprised at how amazing China was, and how everyone, even as crowded as it was to be in Shanghai, everyone seemed like they were getting along, and everything was everyone was polite. Everyone tried to speak English, and truthfully, we were blown away. And that's where we were initially going to go back to. It was such a great trip. I wanted to take this year's students back. The coronavirus changed things, and which was unfortunate, but it's something that hopefully will continue. I don't know where we're going to go next year. My guess is, we'll look at some other options, and that's something I wouldn't want anyone to be concerned about where we might travel, but the companies we work with won't let us go unless it's safe. So certainly I can talk more about that if you're interested. Just to go through the picture, excuse me, that's upper left corner. It was Mercedes-Benz factory, Daimler, and they were making trucks. The neat thing there is they let us go through the whole factory. We got to actually sit in that truck, walk through the production line. Very common in China to see these Kaizen tables, which Kaizen is Japanese for continuous improvement, where they'll meet daily, weekly, monthly about how to make things better. That was a great company visit. Moving top right, we did walk on the Great Wall of China. I think that's where I got confused. And you'll see Dr. Wu there, front and center. I'm in the back left, awkwardly trying to fit in like I do with the rest of my life. But it was so amazing to be on that, on the Great Wall of China. That was our first day there, where we really got to get an idea of kind of how amazing and how ancient the culture is, and so that was great. The bottom two pictures are from Microsoft's artificial intelligence facility in Beijing, and that we walked away there. It was an amazing company visit. The director of that office went out of his way to say, "We're hiring. Please go on our website." And not everyone wants to sign up and go overseas, but it's good to know there's opportunity there. And our takeaway from that was, if this is the stuff they're showing us, which was amazing, what are they really doing? And so that was just us. So trips like that, both Panama and China, really, I think, tie things together for the MBA, show you parts of the international economy that you're going to see when you're out there working. It's unfortunate, not to keep harping on this, it's unfortunate we couldn't do it this year, but we know that was the right decision, and we're going to do our best to do things virtually, which, that's that's what companies that are international, that's how they're conducting business now. So we'll do the same, and hopefully we get to travel next year.
All right, and before we dive in on the application process, Jay, I just wanted to throw this question at you that came in. For students who have completed an internship already, can they count any of that toward the grad internship requirement?
So that's a good question, and we do get that question now and then. So the short answer is we cannot. The way that that's set up, and since we're an accredited graduate program, we do want you to have a specific graduate internship. Now, if you could go back to that same company and maybe take on more responsibility, which is always a good conversation to say I'm in a graduate program now and I need something a little more challenging, and is there a project or something I can work on? And so it's something I know management students have an internship requirement, and we give credit to our marketing students for internships. So it's but the way I would tell you to think about that is now when you do graduate, you would have had 2 internships and all that much more experience as a result of that, and it should differentiate you even more when you go on the job market.
Great. So I'll talk a little bit about the application process, and I know for the students that are on the line, we have everybody from freshmen to seniors on the line, so your dates are going to be a little bit different, but the preferred application deadline is December 1st of your senior year. So you don't have to apply in your junior year, though if you want to, like toward the spring, you certainly can do that. The reason for that preferred deadline, and we say preferred for a reason, I'll get back to that in a second, is that we want to get you into that class, the ethical leadership course with Dr. Knight, for the spring as a senior, because that class is going to count both for your graduate program and for your undergraduate study. And there's really no risk in taking that class because it's going to fulfill an elective for you at the undergrad level, and you're graduating with 3 graduate credits that you can use toward the MBA either when you graduate or even later when you come back, or even can be transferred elsewhere. We're not pushing you to go into our program specifically, although certainly we want you to continue in our program. But when you graduate, our goal is to make sure that you find the appropriate next step for you, whether that be a job or the MBA 4+1 with us or a different opportunity. But there's really no risk in coming into the program and taking that first course because you're not committing to continuing on to the graduate program until the end of the spring. So you can take that first grad course with really no risk, and it only benefits you. Plus, it's not giving you any extra cost for your undergraduate studies, and it's in fact saving you close to $3,000 from your grad program, as Dr. Oliver talked about earlier. Now, we say preferred application deadline because we can still work with you beyond that deadline. Coming into the spring, it gets harder as we get very close to the spring start, but we can certainly still accommodate you at that time. What you have to be mindful of is that if your GPA falls below a 3.2, where we may consider you for a waiver of the GMAT or the GRE, you'll have to take that test coming up into the program. So if you're applying to us in December or January even, trying to get into that class, you don't have enough time to take that exam. So I'll expand a little bit more on the exams in just a second. In addition to your application, we ask for you to submit a letter of intent, which is just something that is basically a personal statement telling us why you want to pursue the program, what you think you'll add to it, maybe what your future goals are, what you hope to use the MBA for. You also are asked to submit 2 letters of recommendation. Most commonly, students use internship supervisors or employers as well as faculty. So, of course, Roger Williams faculty are great resources for you. Don't spring it upon them the day before it's due. So definitely talk to your recommenders beforehand. Find good recommenders that can speak to how you contribute to the classroom, how you deal with conflict, maybe how you work with teams. Those types of things are important as we're evaluating your transcript or your application. Now, your transcripts, we will, since if you are an RW student, which I think most of you on the call are, we will get your transcripts for you. So you do not need to ask for those separately or pay or any of that kind of stuff. We will get your transcripts, so don't worry about that. We are looking for at least a 3.0 GPA or higher, although that's not a hard stop. So we've worked with students that have fallen a little bit below a 3.0 that perhaps get a very good test score. And so we can talk to you more kind of about what that means for you.
Marcus,
sure.
Let me jump in on that as well. Can you go back to the slide before?
Mm-hmm.
So just a couple things, because I as you said, since we do have freshmen through seniors, I know if you're a senior now, that December 1st deadline might be confusing. As I talked about, we run that class again in the fall with Kate Hall, so you do have plenty of time to join the program and be in the 2021 class. So let us know how we can help you with that as we talk about the application process more. On the 3.0 and higher, that's something where if you have a little less than that, but there's, it's one of those situations where it was a tough freshman year or something happened, but you've kind of turned things around. You get a good GMAT GRE score, as Marcus said. If there's any questions or things like that, and I know Marcus was going to say this anyway, but don't let us help you through this process. We're here to help, not to judge, and we're happy to help you. If you're above a 3.2, there's a waiver form I'll fill out on your behalf, and you can waive out of that. If you do have to take the test, I usually have around I probably five to 10, depending on what's going on. But I have students taking the GRE fairly regularly, and it's students have done better on the GRE than the GMAT lately. It's a standardized test, and nobody likes standardized tests, and so I try to have students think of it as a game. It's not that it's hard, but you got to put your time in. Most of those questions are going to be from things you took in high school. And lastly, and I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but I always feel like I have to say it. I would never let a standardized test get in the way of you in graduate school. So let us know you have to take it. We still want you to get your application started, and I have some resources and some other tips, suggestions I can send you. Usually I try to connect a couple students together who have to take it, and they can study with each other. And it's one of those things, if you put your time in, you can figure it out.
And for people that are kind of new to the exams, just to give you a little bit of context, the GRE is the Graduate Records Examination. It's essentially a grad school version of the SAT. Some of the content is similar in terms of how it's structured. There's a verbal piece, or there's a analytical writing piece, and a quantitative section. So those are the kind of three core parts of the GRE. So it's a little bit more broad. The GMAT is a graduate management admission test, and that's largely only used in business schools. And the AACSB allows us to take either exam. So when you're considering coming, and if you have to take one of the exams, you can take either one. The GMAT tends to be a little bit more heavy on math and analytical pieces, and sometimes the students who don't feel like they're as strong in their math skills may opt to take the GRE as an alternative. And it's not that there isn't math on there, because there's plenty of math on the GRE, but it's just a little bit more broad in terms of how it's treated. And as Dr. Oliver mentioned, much of the math that's covered on these exams is math that a lot of us aren't using on a regular basis. It might be math that you've covered in your high school classes, like trigonometry, geometry, calculus, and so on. So you definitely have to prepare for these exams. They're not something you want to go in cold and just take and say, oh, I got this. They are expensive to take. It's a couple $100s for the GRE, and it's a little more expensive for the GMAT. So we don't encourage you to keep taking them multiple times. The goal is to have you study appropriately, take practice tests. That's one of the best ways to prepare for these things. Really get comfortable with the questions and the timing, because you are timed to get these exams done. And just feel comfortable with the content. And the more practice tests you take, the better. And actually, GRE, I'm not sure about the GMAT, but the GRE, for example, you can spend, I think it's only $50. It's not bad. You go onto their website and they can give you 2 fully scored exams. So you actually take the exam, sit down for the actual time, do the whole exam, and they will score it and give you feedback on the answers. And so that's the least expensive option, but I would encourage every student to do that if you have to take the GRE. And then there are, of course, more expensive classes and things down the line if you need to do that. But talk to Dr. Oliver and I, and we'll give you guidance on what we think might be the best option for you. And the sooner we can do that, the better, so that you're not feeling crunched on doing that. And I would say, as an aside, especially if you're a junior now and you're thinking you might be in that ballpark, or even a sophomore, and you're not going to be quite at the 3.2. Certainly, if you're earlier in your career, you have some opportunity to bring that up. But if you think you're going to have to take it, the summer between junior and senior year is a great time to take your practice tests, study, and then maybe take the exam, because then you're not juggling classes while you're doing your examinations. And I think students tend to do better when they're not competing with other things like that. So if you decide to apply, you can apply online at our website. It's grad.rw.edu/apply. Your application fee is waived. You'll see there's an application currently for just the MBA students, so you'll see that linked right on that site. You can email your letter of intent to us. Any other things, if you've done an internship, send a resume. It doesn't hurt. So email that to us as well. And your letters of recommendation, you'll be filling out the recommended information on the application, so they will get a form to complete for you. But if they want to, they can just email us directly. So that's an option, but the letters have to come from your recommender to us. And make sure you schedule that GRE or GMAT. They are run by national organizations. GRE is run by the Educational Testing Service, so it's ets.org. And GMAT is run by the Graduate Management Mission Council, so GMAC.org, I believe. I think you can get MBA.com. We'll take you there as well. And you can read up on all of that. And those tests are done in test centers online, although if you need to be taking it soon, I heard from an ETS representative today that they are considering an at-home version of the GRE that you can take if you're taking it in the next few months when things are kind of chaotic. Although with any luck, if they get something that works well now, as with a lot of things, I think that kind of at-home or remote option will be available for the GRE going beyond whenever this all dies down with the virus. So a few just quick things about the program. The MBA is only open to those with a major or minor in business. So if somebody comes to us with an English degree and has no business background, unfortunately the program is not an option, because one of the things is, if you look at MBAs traditionally, they're usually 2-year programs, often anywhere from 42 to even 51 credits to get the degree done. And that's because those programs they build in a foundation of courses that get you to the level that, presuming most of you are coming from an undergrad business degree. So they give very foundational coursework in accounting, finance, economics, marketing, stats, and so on. So if you get all that foundational stuff, which most of you will do in a major or minor, you're already kind of ahead of the game. So we're able to give you that 1-year program because you have a foundation already. And then, as Dr. Oliver mentioned, you have your Rogers Review workshop in August. So that's kind of a refresher, because some of us haven't had accounting since maybe freshman or sophomore year. So you're getting kind of a refresher to kind of bring you back up to speed. The program right now is only done on a full-time basis. The one exception to that is that we have a dual degree program with our School of Law. So students that come in doing that dual degree program have the option of going part-time, although thus far we've had 2 students participate. And those students both opted to spend 1 year. They left their JD for a portion of time, and they're just doing the MBA full-time, then they're going back to their JD. So it's a really nice kind of setup for those students, but largely students are full-time. It's a cohorted model, so you're all together in the same kind of group. Jay mentioned how it really becomes kind of a family, and these are people that are going to be lifelong friends and a network that you'll have, and this will help both personally and professionally, so it's something that's very worthwhile for the students. For the upcoming year, now granted this would only impact any seniors on the line, the cost is going to be $9.84 per credit hour for the MBA. That does tend to go up about 3.5% each year. So we don't have the exact 21 and future tuitions, but roughly that's the increase in cost each year. And then the Rogers Review Workshop is a fixed $500 cost. And financial aid, I believe I cover on the next screen, which is good. So a few things about financial aid. The GPA that you have from your undergrad program clearly has weight when it comes to the test requirement, but we also have a number of scholarships that are baked in now that are based on your GPA when you graduate. And we will reevaluate this too. So if you apply in junior year and say you have a 3.3, but then by the time you graduate senior year, you have a 3.5, we'll increase your scholarship based on that, based on your GPA improving. On the contrary, we're not going to take it away from you, but don't bomb your senior year. We don't want you to do that. But we do have some fixed scholarships right now that you get either $1,500, $3,000, or $4,500 based on your GPA, and they're at thresholds of 3.3, 3.5, and a 3.8. So really strong students are going to get that higher threshold. And remember, you're getting $3,000 of value if you do that spring course. So for some students with a good scholarship, that puts you up to, say, $7,500, which is, I think, about a quarter off the total tuition. It's a pretty nice deal for students. We also have some limited grants if students have need, so we could talk to you about that later on. The other thing with graduate study, particularly the master's level, is that students largely pay for most, if not all, of their studies through graduate federal student loans. Some of you have taken federal loans before, so you're probably familiar with these. This all, of course, depends on your personal circumstances. So you may have support from family or friends or whomever, or you might have other scholarships and things. So certainly we're not forcing you to take these options, but many grad students take federal loans to support at least part of their studies. And so you'll qualify for the direct unsubsidized loan, which is similar to the Stafford loan if you took that in undergrad. You'll get $20,500 per year, and that's currently at a rate of 6%, just over 6%. Which is pretty competitive. Plus, these federal loans have long-term repayment options, so usually up to 20 to 25 years. And you have income-based repayment options. So if you graduate and you're doing an entry-level job for a little while, and then you start making some more money and you grow, then your loan payments can grow with your salary rather than you having to be feeling strapped when you first graduate. So the federal loans give you that flexibility. The private loans typically do not. If you need to borrow above the $20,500, the Federal Direct Plus loan is available to you. And the Plus loan, you may have seen from undergrad, the Parent Plus loan. It's no longer the parents because your parents aren't involved any longer, at least financially, on the from the Fed's point of view. So you have the Plus loan available. That's just 1 percentage point higher for interest. And you can borrow in either of these programs up to the cost of attendance. So most students take that federal direct loan first, and then the Plus loan would be anything beyond that. But this allows you up to a cap to take money for things like housing, meals, transportation, things that you need while you're in school. If you have to, say buy an apartment or rent an apartment, or you're with roommates or whatever, and you need that funding and you're going to school full time, you're likely not going to be working a lot. You might work part-time. But you have these loan opportunities available to help you offset your costs.
And Marcus, I did want to jump in. We have so much to talk about in an hour, and I did want Kiana to not to put her on the spot, but to share any student experiences that we might have left out.
Yeah, so I don't think you actually left anything out, but one thing that's so unique to the program that I feel we should emphasize more highly on is the fact that it's only an average of like 20 students in our MBA program. And that is really what brought me to want to join the MBA. And to begin with, I was looking at different options, but the professors and the students, and just coming from an undergrad degree at Roger Williams, I knew what I was getting myself into for the MBA program. Well, not exactly, because they definitely do challenge you more than your undergrad degree, but it's such a community, and you really do become a family in that two semesters. And I can't believe that I'm already almost a graduate, but I think it's just very unique. We do a lot of fun things in the program, and we help each other with classwork. It's a really great family unit. And to go back to ethical leadership in the spring course for your senior year, I highly recommend that all seniors try to take that elective. That was an awesome course. That was a great segment into what the program has to offer. And it really does challenge you at an MBA level. And it's great because you do get the credits for your master's degree as well as undergrad degree credits. So that I definitely highly recommend taking.
And I did want to add something, Kiana. One of the things, in addition to the coursework, we were really trying to do something about every 3 weeks to once a month. We started off, some stuff is team building and for fun, and some stuff is for professional development. We went on that sailing trip early on. In my course, we had a chance to Skype with the CFO from Novartis in Tokyo. We brought in Megan Rothschild from Chick Media to do build your digital brand and how to maintain that. She comes in the spring and fall. A couple weeks ago, we had Tim Baxter come in from he's the chairman of the board of the trustees for Roger Williams and a former CEO of Samsung North America to talk with the students, and he just did a great session. And so it's more than just the coursework. You get you leave this is my opinion. Kiana will tell me this in a couple months, but I think you leave a confident professional.
I would agree with that. And I think our university does a really good balance of both fun and professionalism. You mentioned all the professional things, but we also put together an alumni event, a networking event. So the past MBA classes got together with our current MBA class, and we just got to network and talk about the program, talk about internship and job opportunities, see where everybody is, and just connect through that. And it's just a really great community aspect that we've built through this program.
Absolutely. And Marcus, I know you have all our contact information there, and I think this is the point where if you're interested, we're happy to help any way we can. And even if you're looking at a couple different graduate programs, especially Marcus, but I know people at other programs as well. And if it's something, as Marcus said earlier, we'd love to see you come to RWU for your MBA, but we want to help you regardless.
Yeah, and if any students want to pick my brain further, find me, email me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to answer any more questions.
And forgive my desktop for a minute, but I wanted to pull up our website because one thing we had intended to include on I think I used an old slide deck, so my apologies for that. But I wanted to show everybody on the call just a little bit of of the successes of the MBA program thus far. We've graduated 2 cohorts up until this point, and I'm just the admissions guy, but on the outside, one of the things that I'm particularly impressed by is where these students are working. Hopefully you can all see my screen clearly there, but you see names like Ernst & Young, Forrester, Hasbro, Dow Jones, KPMG, Walt Disney. Students are getting some really fantastic jobs out of the program, which if I was in your shoes, I would be most concerned about what that list looks like, because ultimately when you're investing, whether it be a year or 2, and you're investing in what's going to look like about a $30,000 to $40,000 investment for your entire graduate degree, you want to know that at the other end you've got a return on that investment. And I think this list is really proof in the pudding. And even look at the internship opportunities that our students have had as well, working at some really big companies: Johnson & Johnson, Fidelity, Dell, Chase, AAA, U.S. Sailing, which is actually headquartered on our campus now, Waterfire, Providence, Third Spoon Creative, even some small businesses there. Really impressive list of opportunities that our students have had. And knowing that you come into a program that's high quality, and within months of graduating, or even before you graduate, you've got jobs in hand from these companies, that really speaks to the quality and the level of this program. And Jay, there was one question here about the selectivity of the application process. And And I think that the 20 student cohort maybe suggests that it's a little bit more rigorous than we intend for it to sound.
Yeah, no, we have 22 students in it now, I don't know exactly where we're going to end up with the fall, but it won't be the MBA program. We would never let it be such a huge class. The idea is to have a cohort program that would probably max at 30 at the most, give or take. But what I would tell you is that my colleagues, my friends that teach in the program, this is their favorite class, and so as Kiana said, we are a family. As far as the application concerns, or if someone, that's a great reason for that person to just go ahead and reach out to me or you or both. And given the situation we're in, if you reach out to me, I'm happy we can set up a quick phone call, and I can call, or we can talk on the phone or email or whatever you prefer, and get you going on that process of the application. And hopefully that answers that question. But I would say, when in doubt, just reach out to us, and we're happy to talk to you and walk through the process. If you're on the border, a good GRE score certainly helps your application, which is just a matter of you putting some time into it. I know a lot students can be intimidated by those kind of tests, but my response is it's just a matter of putting time in.
So Jay, one of the questions here, can you talk a little bit about the costs related to the international abroad in the end of that second year, or the end of the middle spring semester?
Sure. There are some costs associated with that. We do reduce the cost of the International Experience course, which is a 3-credit course that accompanies that. So we basically reduce the cost of that by 50%, and the trip itself really, regardless we go, has been hovering around the $3,500 range. And I've had students take out some additional loans to do that. It's always a challenge on my part in the beginning or before we go to explain that you're really going to have an amazing experience, and we really are getting a bargain. To go to China for 8 or 9 days for $3,500 is, including airfare, is amazing. We were going to go down to Chile and Argentina, where we flew to Chile for a few days, flew to Argentina then for a few days, and then flew back home. That whole trip was around the $3,500 range. So I would say, really, including the trip and all the tuition, you have to think about it as an investment. When our graduates are on interviews, those trips come up, and it's a good differentiator. So, I know things add up quickly when we go through all the costs, but I would take the long-term view on this. That's an investment, and that trip is such an amazing experience that it's good to know how much it costs so you can plan accordingly. And we do reduce those, cut that one course, the cost in half, to be a little more accommodating, a little more sensitive to the fact that this is an out-of-pocket expense.
Great, and I think that's all the questions that I see here. I mean, Kiana, is there anything you'd like to add that we haven't maybe covered at this point?
No, I think we just about hit it all.
Okay. Great. Well, go ahead, Jay.
I just want to add this, and so, and again, since we have people from all different years, if you're a senior and are interested in the fall, let us know the sooner rather than later. Really, for everyone else, from freshman to junior, you'll have a chance to talk with us more. It's something where in the fall, if you want to sit in on an MBA class just to check it out, I'm happy to set that up. And let us know how we can help you make your decision.
And given that hopefully this remote stuff is a temporary measure, for those of you that are going to be obviously with us back in the fall, we would be happy to get you some pizza because we normally would have done that in a session in person. So feel free to join us again in the fall just to grab a slice while you're in school. But thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate that it's a challenging time and it's tough to probably get away from some of the things that you're kind of sorting out at home. But we hope this was helpful for you. And if we can answer any questions, like Jay mentioned, feel free to contact us. So thanks again. And thanks, Jay and Kiana, and hope everybody stays safe and healthy.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.